Hey there, everyone. Ryan Schul, Straight Data Science channel. So today I want to show you how to do merges between data frames, okay? And there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. So let me take you through it. This video is going to be pretty short and pretty sweet, hopefully. But we have to be aware when we're doing these mergers, what's the outcome, right? There's kind of a little gotcha. It's a big gotcha. If you run a computer script and it doesn't crash or cause an error, and you think, okay, it ran, so everything's fine, that can still create errors in the data, right? If you do the merge the wrong way, or if you do your calculation the wrong way, just because the script runs doesn't mean that's correct, right? If you try to run a script and it just crashes, you have some type of technical error, right? But if you run a script and it runs but produces the wrong result, you have a logical error, right? So when we do these mergers, we have to be careful on how we're doing the merge. And the pitfalls can be if you have multiple IDs repeating themselves multiple times, then you have to handle the merge in a very specific way, right? So you can think of a very classic example would be for a credit card company, you'll have a unique identifier, right, for the credit card for the individual, but they'll have multiple transactions throughout the month, right? So you have all the transactions for this month, you have different transactions for the prior month and different for the month before that, right? But if you do the merge and you're trying to summarize all the information for this customer and you merge it together and these credit card numbers are repeating themselves, you are going to explode the data frame. It's called exploding the data frame, and you're going to have a lot more rows than you expect if you don't do it the right way, and you're going to have completely incoherent results. It's not going to make any sense, right? So basically, I have some notes over here. I'm not going to read it word for word. You can read it on your own, okay? But just remember this concept. If you have the same ID repeating itself multiple times, you have to handle these merges a couple different ways or you're going to get the wrong results. So let me show you an example here. So I have the script I just put together. Very simple, very straightforward. We have a customer ID, customer name. Okay, this is the first data frame, customer ID, purchase amount. And then the third data frame is customer ID, ticket ID, and then issue type. So typically, and there's exceptions, I'll show you the exception, but typically you take the minimum number of rows and that's what you start with, that's what you end with. So the minimum number of rows here is 3, right? So Python is zero based. You start with the 0, then you have the 1 and the 2, but it's actually 3 rows of data, okay? Even though it says 0, 1, 2, it's actually 3 rows. And 0, 1, 2, you have 3 rows of data here. Here you have 6, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. But again, I want you to understand what you start with, the number of rows you start with, that's what you should end with, okay? And I'll show you one exception, and it's totally fine. If you want to see the details of the data, what's transpiring in between, that's fine. But basically, if you start with 3 rows, you want to end up with 3. So here's a way to do a merge. I'm doing data frame customers. This is what I have over here. I have 3 data frames, right? DF customers, DF purchases, and DF support, okay? So if I'm merging DF customers with purchases, and I'm doing a left merge, so I'm taking everything in the left data frame, which is this one over here. This one is on the left, and merging it with purchases. So I get DF merged and then DF merged with DF support. So these are the 3, DF support, DF purchases, and DF customers. These are the 3 data frames I'm trying to merge together. Merging on customer ID, I'm doing a left merge. So I started with 3 rows, remember that? Now I have 9, so I'm displaying the shape of the data frame, merge shape. So I have 0 through 8, actually 9 rows. But if you look closely here, and if you think about it, if we start with 3, how do we get to 9? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if you look closely, Charlie has 75 and 75, right? So those numbers seem suspicious to me. It's 125, 125, and 50 and 50. And like, why is it repeating? It's repeating because of this. This is slightly different over here, right? The 102 and the 103 login. But the purchase amount is 50. It shouldn't be 50 plus 50. That would be 100. 75 plus 75 is 150, and 125 times 2 is 250. These shouldn't be repeating, right? If you go back and look at Charlie, what's Charlie doing over here? Charlie has customer ID number 3. So he has 3 transactions. He has 50, 75, and 125, right? So we have 150, 175, and 125, but that's it. So if it's repeating like this, 50, 50, 75, 75, 125, 125, totally wrong, right? We did the merge and the code ran and we did what we told it to do, but this is not right, right? We're duplicating our data and we're creating what's called our Cartesian product, right? So it's taking every combination of everything and exploding the whole data frame, but this is not what we want. So let's get this straightened out right now, okay? So there's a couple ways that you can do it. If you want to aggregate the data before the merge, that's one classical way to handle these types of transactions, right? So we can do a group by customer ID. So we're taking all the customer IDs and reducing those or collapsing those into one ID, and we are summing the purchase amount, right? So purchase amount sum, we're going to create aggregate purchases, right? And then we'll get this down here. So Charlie is customer number 3, and he has $250 worth of purchases, and his number of tickets is 2.0. Okay, so if you go back here, Charlie is customer number 3, right? And that's and this is a very basic example, but this is the most complicated or complex instance in this example. So he has 50, 75, 125. 50 and 75 is 125 when you add those together, plus 125 is 250. So you come down here, Charlie has 250. So that totally makes sense to me. Bob has 150. I think he had a couple transactions. Let's see, Bob is number 2. Customer number 2, he had 1 transaction. So that's pretty straightforward. He has 150. That's straight up. Nothing changed there. And Alice has 300. So Alice has customer ID number 1. That repeats 2 times 100 plus 200. Right there, 100 and 200 is 300. So we're in good shape. So we did the aggregation and then did the merge after that. So we take everything and consolidate it, then merge the data frames together. Okay, so that is one way to do it. Now there's an alternate way. If you want to see the details in between all these transactions in between and do the merge, that's totally fine. But we don't want to create duplicates, right? So in this example, again, the code runs. We have Charlie with 50-50, right? Originally there was just 150. 75-75, originally there was 175, and 125 is repeating, and there's really just one instance of $125 spent over here, right? So that's fine. You can do the merge and you can see all the details in between. So you can take everything and consolidate it. That's what we saw in the first example. The second way to do that is to kind of explode it just to see the details, but don't explode it all over the place, right? So the number of transactions we have here is 6, and we can see the details. We can see Alice has 100 and 200, and Bob has 150. So we can see the in-between, all details of what's happening, and then the combination or the merging of the data frames as well. And there's one final instance I'll show you over here if you want to get a little bit tricky. You can bring in support tickets and kind of explode that horizontally if you want to see details about that. So that would be, again, a group by customer ID, ticket ID, and issue type. And we're using a Lambda function. So Lambda functions will do simple calculations for you. I have a whole video on that. You can check out Lambda functions if you want to see how that works. It's called The Magic of Python. It's pretty cool how that works. But you can use the Lambda function, again, to get the details, like we saw before. 100, 200 for Alice, just like we see over here. And 150 for Bob, 1 transaction. So that's pretty straightforward. There's nothing to do there. 50, 75, 125. And you see the same down here for Charlie. And then, again, if I hit Control-Enter to run it, you'll see it in real time. So the goal, if there's 1 row per customer, that's totally fine. There's really nothing to do. If there's multiple IDs repeating themselves over and over, that's when you have to use this logic to either consolidate everything, like we saw in the first instance, or you can see the details, but you have to do the merge the proper way. If you just merge those together and you have repeating instances of IDs, you're going to explode that data frame and get a Cartesian product. And sometimes that's what you want, but that's pretty rare. I mean, that's showing you every possible combination of every transaction in the merged data frame. That's very unusual, but again, sometimes it's what you want. If you were trying to plan your baseball season, have every local team in your area play against every other team, and you want every combination possible, that's a Cartesian product, and that would be one instance where you want to see every combination of everything. But typically, in the business world, you don't do that. That would be pretty weird. I've never actually done that in the real world, but there could be use cases for that. But usually, again, consolidate and then do the merge, or you can see the details, and it's totally fine. If you want to see the in-between transaction, that's totally fine, but just do the merge the right way. So I'm going to share all this code with you guys so you have everything, and you can download it and copy and paste the code and run it in your own environment and see how these things work. And just be aware of that, okay? When you're doing your merges, um, there's some pitfalls here and there's some gotchas. Don't get caught up in that. I've seen people do this and merge data frames that have whatever 10,000 rows in one data frame, maybe 100,000 another, and they'll get millions and millions and millions of rows in the merged data frame. That's totally incorrect, right? Don't fall into that pit. Don't go down that path. Don't do that, right? Okay, so hopefully this was informative and educational. I try to make all my videos practical. And again, it's kind of a simple example. It's very, very simplified. So I just want to illustrate the concept here in your own work, in your own whatever, in your own environment. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more complicated, but just remember the group by technique or consolidate everything, then do the merge together. So that's it. Hopefully I was able to drop some knowledge that was useful and informative today. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.